Hello, time for video task 2 about why I decided not to take part in the triathlon. Kind of touched on this previously, when I saw the ad for the triathlon, when I first heard about it, I'd just got back from Canada from a couple of months out there, and so I don't know if this sounds like a silly reason, but I was kind of thinking, you know what, in January, even though it was after Christmas, I'd been back for a couple of weeks by then, I was still meeting up with friends again, catching up with people, and also going back to work after a couple of months off. So I thought I might deserve a drink every now and again. And I think probably I had some other things lined up, like meeting up with people and going out for a meal and all of that sort of thing. And also it worked out that that's when my boyfriend and I were doing the majority of our house hunting and then moving in together, and so we had to celebrate that as well. So because those sorts of things were going on in my life, I did decide, you know, even from seeing that first ad for the triathlon, that actually it wasn't going to be for me this time around. And that's not to say that I wouldn't consider it another year or another month, or, you know, whenever it next comes around. So it's a bit difficult for me to comment on anything to do with the registration process or any of that, because I really didn't look into it. It was very much an instant decision, and then I didn't research it further. I think had I known people that got involved, that would have obviously encouraged me to read out more about it and that kind of thing, but I didn't, and it didn't seem to come up as a topic of conversation at any point, so I don't really know whether or not I had friends who were aware that it was happening. I don't seem to have had anyone, certainly within my close circle of friends or even on Facebook or anything, who was asking for sponsorship for it, or who had heard of it or was kind of drumming up interest. And so it doesn't seem like many people that I know or in my circles took part, or even necessarily heard of it. And I don't know why that would be. I imagine partly it's that everyone's so busy around Christmas time that perhaps they just weren't paying so much attention to ads and to that sort of thing. Or it might just be that I was quite out of the loop, as I say, because I had been away, and then when I got back it was very much catching up with family and my boyfriend for a while, and then with friends and that kind of thing. But so, final question really, what would have made it easier or more motivating from the campaign? It's difficult, as I say, because for me it was such a snap decision, and it really was based on the timing of it. I think really it would have been more motivating, as I've touched on slightly already, if I had known other people that were going to get involved. Because I think had I seen sort of things cropping up on Facebook, oh, so-and-so's, you know, as I'm sure it would have done for other people, so many people are talking about this, your friends are taking part in this, group saying, can you sponsor me in order to do this? Then that might have actually encouraged me, and I might have brought it up with friends and said, hey, maybe we should do this. But as I say, this time around, it probably wasn't very likely to happen. More motivating, I guess friends to deal with. And also for me, I think it was difficult to think, well, would anyone actually care if I was doing this? I mean, obviously, I'll be raising money for a good cause and everything. There's no doubt about that. And as we touched on in task 1, I think there are health benefits and potential financial benefits to it. But I'm not a huge drinker, I would say, during the week or at weekends necessarily. And I'm probably not a huge socialite in that sense either. Like, I've got my close friends who I see often and will go out and have a drink with, or go for a meal, or all of that kind of thing. But because I'm not a huge drinker, it wouldn't really be that much of an effort almost. Like, I definitely could go dry for a month and probably, well, I was going to say I might have actually done it in the past without realising, but that's probably not true for several years. But I don't think people would as in it wouldn't necessarily be much of a challenge for me. It's not like when people do run a marathon or something like that. There is that element of giving something up in order to raise money, but as I said, because it wouldn't really be much of a feat, or I don't think it would be seen as much of a feat for my friends if I were doing that, I don't know that it was very motivating for me to get involved, because you think, well, would people care? Would they, enough to sponsor you and actually make it worth your while at raising money for the charity? So I hope that made sense. But that's some of my thoughts on why I didn't take part, which, as I said, really comes down a lot to timing, but also to perhaps interest from other people. But I definitely would consider it in the future. It's just that it didn't happen this time around.